Cloud, and we are recording and we're live. Okay, hold on. I knew I had to turn that off. Hold on.
All right, it says we're streaming there. It doesn't come from
Don't you
yet,
love
so
that
just give it 2
technology?
seconds. Hello, everybody. We are live stream. We're actually inviting you in today to be part of our live stream.
Of course, now I can't find it.
All right, so we're recording Cloud, and we are recording.
Okay, now we're recording. So let's try this again. Happy Wednesday, everybody. What is the date? I mean, did we have a full moon this week or something? Right? It's super moon or something. Well, anyway, my name is Melanie Kenneman, and I'm so excited to have a very, very special guest this week on our Playing to Win series that we host here every week at the Austin Northwest Market Center in Austin, where it all began. And every week we talk about what people are doing to play to win. And we have all kinds of amazing guests every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central. And these are also all stored on our website at KW Austin NW under Playing to Win series. So today I have a very, very special guest, Mike Takao. Mike has been with Keller Williams a very long time. He is an amazing guy. He's my office neighbor too.
Yes.
I say that in the most fondest way, Mike, because you have a great story and you have really shown how you've bloomed where you're planted. And I love that because I think a lot of agents waste energy, ping-ponging around and stuff like that. And you've just been focused on your business, and it paid off because you, my dear, in the 2020 awards were a #1 team for GCI and units for 2-person team. So that's quite extraordinary, my dear.
Well, it's been quite a run, and certainly I couldn't go without mentioning the help on the team with Laurie De Leon and Trey Baring and David Ingerson now. So they've really helped us put us where we're currently at. But yeah, started in 2000 and end of 2002. I think technically 2003 April. So we're right at 18 years, and all at the Northwest Market Center. And
congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely showing my age, but it's been, just like anything in life, there's been peaks and valleys with my real estate career, but I mean, what a market that the Austin area is experiencing right now. I mean, nothing even remotely that I've seen, in my time, and even talking to agents that have been in it longer than myself, even for them, it's just unbelievable what's transforming in the last 6 months.
Well, and you think about, 18 years, you've seen, like you said, you've seen a lot of different markets here, right? And so I don't think anybody could have imagined the market that we're in right now, honestly. I think no one could have. And so that's why when we started this series, and our whole theme this year is playing to win, right? Because it's a different market. And 2020 was a lot of playing not to lose. In 2021, it's all about what can I do? What do I need to do right now? Because the world's changing, the market's changing, right? Everything is changing that we know. And we're going to talk about how you work with your buyers, how you work with your sellers, how you manage all that. Okay, so let's start. I love to start with this question, Mike. So what does playing to win look like for Mike Takao?
Well, I think, and I think speaking for myself, I think, growing up playing sports, it was often an analogy used, don't play, play to win, and I don't think that there's any worse feeling when you haven't done that, or when you've lost and you feel like, wow, I didn't give it all my got, everything that I had. And I think in correlation to, the business side of things, what does it look for our team? I think for me, you've got to be willing to fall forward, and that's different for everybody. But for me, that was a major opening. I think having that mentality and mindset, and being surrounded by, great coaches and through MAPS and through the office of learning to fall forward, and it's okay. And in a market like this, and for someone that is so conservative by nature, it was really stumping our growth. And I think once you opened it up to that type of mindset, that it allows you to do just that, grow. And I mean, hey, at the end of the day, me personally, I don't want to be pounding the pavement on weekends for the rest of my life. I don't, and everyone has their different goals, but I don't want to do that. And I found myself after 17, 16 years in the business, still doing that, so I said, I've got to make some changes. So, and in the market that we're in, I mean, obviously there's huge changes, but for us, it was a mindset and getting into that mindset and getting the team sold on that.
So playing to win is a mindset, and it's about growing, and it's about, and here's the thing, like I think people misunderstand sometimes when I talk about playing to win. It's not always about being number one. Being number
Right.
one's great, right? It's also a lot of pressure. Whatever winning looks like to you. So it's like, don't misunderstand the playing to win mentality that I'm talking about is much more about, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay? It looks like I froze for a second. Who knows today with the technology? I'm just checking, like, are we still on? Okay, great. Is that the playing to win mentality is different for everybody, but it's progress, and it's growing, and it's moving forward. That's playing to win. It's also taking a look at these falling or failing forward moments and learning from them, right? And I think that really separates somebody that's very successful from somebody who just is really kind of going and spinning their wheels. And I think this market we're in, Mike, is a market where a lot of people can get frustrated and burn out.
Absolutely. And I wanted to make a point of that. So for us specifically, leveraging has been a huge thing for us. Okay. Now, in relating to maybe some newer agents who are just themselves an agent and they're getting started, you guys are going to hear it. I still hear it day in and day out. It sounds so cliche, but you've got to lead generate, and you've got to find a way to, I mean, do you know how many agents were at Laurie, Melanie, in the Austin area?
17,000.
Wow. I mean, 17,000 agents. Now, in my opinion, in a market that we're in, like Melanie said, it can be frustrating because if you're newer to the business and you're probably, predominantly working with buyers, it's tough. It's tough, guys. And so I think that you've got to get creative with lead generation. And, we had some obstacles in 2020 with, COVID and open houses and, making yourself, accessible for, people to people interaction. But some of that stuff is, with the vaccines and stuff, we're starting to really see some sense of normalcy. And I encourage you guys to figure out a way to lead gen, because it's with 17,000 agents, you got to differentiate yourself somehow.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I actually, I didn't realize it was that high, and we were on a call and I heard it was 17,000. I was like, oh my gosh. I remember when I moved to Austin 10 years ago, and it was like, 7-ish, and then it was
Yeah.
10, and then I remember hitting it 12,000. But we've also grown as a population, right? But think about the 80-20 rule is really more like the 90-10 rule these days, right? It's more like 10% of the agents do about 90% of the business. So 10% of 17,000 is a lot. Is a
Yeah.
lot of agents, right? So how do you get a piece of that? And so much, and you said mindset, which I love. Playing to win for me is also mindset, right? It's like you make the decision that I want to be able to play in any market, and I'm not going to be dependent on the market around me, right? I need to learn and become the master of it, right?
Yep. And I mean, educating is huge. Educate, knowledge is power, right? And one thing you can control, there's a lot of things you can't control. I mean, that's just life, right? But in business, there's a lot of things that you can control, and it is important that you maximize, to the best of your, ability. And one of those is educating. I mean, what better company to be at, that we can educate. We have a lot of resources for educating, especially clients that are new, but even clients that are established, and knowing your product. Guys, you have to know your product. and especially,
I think now more
you
than
know,
ever, right? Don't you think?
uh,
Yeah, now more than ever.
600, Melanie, today there were 600 listings, 614 listings in the Austin area. I mean, in Austin, in the greater area, 1,600. Okay, guys, 1,600 may sound like a lot, but I mean, I'm used to 9,000 listings on the market. So, there's a lot less product to know because there's just not much product out there. But, staying up to speed on these builders. Okay, our team has made a spreadsheet of these builders, and where we're working on all of these builders have something, different ways of how they're handling this crazy market we're in. Okay, and it's up to us, the agent, to know how it's going to play out with some of our buyers, because what I see, Melanie, is a lot of people have this 300 to 350 price range, and my gosh, that's the toughest. It used to be 200, 200. Well, now it's three. We probably have, I don't know, 6 to 8 clients that are like, oh, we're in that 350, price range. And so what we've done is try to create a spreadsheet to present to them and give them options on, hey, how do you want to go about this? But never before has education in general, but certainly educating your client. Oh my gosh, the conversations with our clients are totally different.
Right. And that leads to the perfect next question, which is, what do you think an agent it's really important that they do, like, right now? And you're just leading right into that. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I think right now what we're focused on, myself and Trey Berrien, who is fairly new to the business, and I would say that most of his business is buyers, is we are having, and if I'm on the call with him, or if I'm not, we are making it a point to have probably, a good 45-minute hour conversation with the buyer, especially if they're a new buyer, just preparing them, and I think it's a conversation that a lot of agents, if you're newer, may fear having, but the market is so strong right now. I think our value comes in conversations like that, and setting an expectation for those buyers. A lot of them, they don't know. They don't know, and they're scared, and so it's, what I would say is that initial conversation, you need to spend more time with that than we normally would, in a normal market.
More time educating more time educating upfront, right? That makes a lot of sense, because there's more to educate on, right? Because here's the rules of the game, and this is what you're going to have to do, and is this the time for you? You have to have that conversation, right? Which I don't think you've had to have for a really long time. Is this the right time for you? Are you willing to play the game right now in Austin?
And you know what? We've had 2 or 3 recent clients that, they decided not to. And I mean, you're right. This is uncharted waters for, I mean, this is stuff that, we've never had. You used to be able to walk into a model home, get a list of the homes that were available for sale for that builder, and be under contract. Guys, I mean, there's companies out there that, their whole commission structures have changed, and so I think getting in tune with the new builders and what they have going on is important. And I will tell you, for the agents on conversations with sellers, yes, it's a strong market, but you know what? I mean, you've got to set expectations with them too, because some of them are just getting out of hand. As far as like, okay, I no, Mike, now granted, my window that we allow typically for, as far as a list price, we'll give them a rate. Yeah. Has that gotten a little bit bigger? Yes. But there are some sellers that, they need, one of my best clients, and probably one of my highest dollar clients, always told me, he said, it's always stuck with me: pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And I've had a couple hogs lately, as far as like just having too big of an expectation. So I think it's a fine line. Certainly it's great to be a seller, but man, you better have a plan on where they're going to go. That's for sure. Because
That's a whole
Yeah,
nother conversation, right?
for
Because
sure.
and we'll talk more about that. So what you're doing differently is you're educating, you're spending more time with people, educating them from both sides, really, but especially the buyers, right? And you're kind of getting more creative of what are my other options, and you're gathering a lot more data. You're feeling like you need to be more current than ever. So let's talk about buyers a little bit more. Can you
Yep.
specifically say, tell us some things you're setting them up to win? Like what are the kind of things that are important to talk to buyers about these days specifically?
Well, again, I think a big piece of that is the education portion. Okay, now once we have that, I with our buyers, um, we're definitely aiming a little bit lower than where we were originally. As far as allowing for appraisal differences to have to make up and whatnot. But to setting them up to we've we definitely are making sure that from a financing perspective everything is strong. We have them prepared to write letters if need, although I've seen lately on some listings no love letters. I thought that's kind of funny. And then three, we are making ourselves available. Okay, that's how we're setting them up to win. Because I can't, and guys, if you're busy, we have a great office. I'm sure people, I use them, agents from not even just on my team, from the office to open up doors. There's services out there to open up doors, but being available and accessible, it's kind of like we're on call, honestly. Kind of like we're on call because a listing's going to go live on Friday and it's going to be pending on Monday. So I think availability is helping set up your buyer for being the best possible position that they can be when they submit an offer. And Melanie, another thing is agent relationships, agent to agent relationships. I can't stress that enough. And I can't stress how much a call can go to an agent. And guys, Melanie was talking about 80-20. I agree. It's more 90-10. For you guys that are planning to stay in real estate for any period of time, you make good relations with those other realtors. It's funny when, I look at 10 offers on a listing we have and I go, oh man, well, I had a really bad experience with that, agent, and that's, again, ultimately it's up to the seller, but that's information I'm going to let the seller know on, my experience. And so in this market, I think agent relationships is huge and we can control that. And
Oh my gosh, Mike, I'm so glad you brought that up. I get this all the time because think about, and we talked about this at our last Plan to Win too. It's like, think about, you have 90 offers on a property and your phone's blowing up. So you understand both sides, right? But how do you make sure that you keep that communication? Do you have a template, and it's have the systems in place and communicate with the people, because not hearing back, remember, these people have a relationship with their clients, and when you have a good relationship with Mike, that's why I always say when we do a team meeting or a Zoom, I'll break you guys into groups. You need to know each other, right? You need to know each other because the agent to agent relationship is so critical. And if you have 10 offers that are equally awesome and my name's on one of them and we know each other, you're gonna be like, oh man, these are all on paper about the same, but I'm telling you, Mike Takao or Melanie Kenneman, man, they're going to get it done, and they are so great to work with, right? Because they're professional, they have communication, and they will do what they say. Your reputation goes so far, and I couldn't agree with you more, Mike, about
absolutely. And we have that, I have that conversation all the time with sellers. And when you get that many offers, there's bound to be a couple that are gonna, there's gonna be very little differences between the price and things like that can make the difference. And I let my clients, my potential buyers that we meet with, I let them know that over time, I'm in an office of how many agents are we at now in the north? In
468 and growing.
468. Okay, we're in one of the largest offices in the Austin area, buyer. And I think one thing that goes, that people overlook are, agent relationships. And I let them know that we focused over the years to establish good relationships. Because I will tell you, honestly, are there some realtors that I would care not to do a deal with? Yeah, There are, unfortunately, it's sad, but that's the reality. But yeah, I think that's another thing that I think can bring value to your buyers, knowing that they have someone that has a good reputation out there and is,
You know,
ready to
you
close
know,
it.
sorry to interrupt you. You know what that reminds me of? It's the relational versus transactional. And I think it's really, really important that we don't forget in this crazy busy market that it's still relational. It's
It is.
relational for your client, right? They may be writing multiple offer situations, but they're a human having this experience, right? And so remember, that's a relationship that means a lot to you with them. And then the agent to agent relationship, right? It's a relational, what we do, guys, the best strength that we have is relationships with others, our clients
Yeah.
and each other, right? So I'm so glad we can never forget that realtor etiquette and how we treat each other and just that professional level. That's I love that you brought that up. And I think it
Well,
matters a lot right now.
and I think that's why we're still here. I know that there's, people, friends of mine that aren't in real estate have always said, hey, Mike, you're going to be replaced soon. The realtor is going to, what do you feel about that? And, we hear that day in and day out. But Melanie, I think you're right. I think that relational aspect is something that people want, that consumers out there want and they value, and especially in the market that we're in now.
It's funny. It's our most valuable asset that we have is our knowledge and just us being able to guide clients to make great decisions. They will make the decision at the end of the day, but a great agent can help them make the best decision, right? And that's where our value is. That's not a swipe for the house and click and buy, right? I
Right.
don't see that. I think you're only replaceable if you bring no value. And so the agents who bring no value will not be in the business very long. The agents that bring value, and when I say value, I'm not saying be like super emotional, because you got to drive that bus. You're the logic, the person helping them move forward. So there's a way to treat people, and this is where like emotional intelligence really comes into play. And Mike, I think you're a really good example of that because you're highly relational. I hear you. I get the benefit of listening to you.
Uh-oh. Thin walls.
Like, oh, is he listening to me on all my calls? But you know what? You have the most calm, friendly, kind, lovely voice that it's so nice to hear you, how you speak to people. And it's hard for me to tell if you're talking to a client or another agent, because I'll think you're talking to a client because I'll realize it's a deal you're doing with another agent and you're talking about an inspection or something. I love it. So people could learn a lot from the way you live your life every day. So I'm so happy we're featuring you today.
Well, I'm happy to be here and happy, very happy, to be a part of our market center. And again, as I've said before, I'm excited to see more people in the office. I think there's an awesome dynamic, wear your mask. And I think soon, hopefully that won't be required either, but there's a dynamic in the office, guys, that just you don't get from home. And I think once I got started, we made an appointment to be in the office every day. There's just when you hear conversations, when you see other people, it's very inspiring. It's very inspiring to go by Julie Galarraga's office and see all of her team working, and it's just it's a contagious feeling. So I invite you guys to get in as much as you can.
Yeah, we are open, guys, and you can now meet clients too. And you can do all that booking through the our website, right? The KW Austin NW. That's all our North agents. Come on in, and if you're KW at another office and you want to meet somebody here, our doors are open. Just make sure to schedule a room, but mask up. And you know what? We are emotional creatures, so we feed off each other. So I love that, and I love that you said that. I love when you're next door because I hear you, and I know you're on out and about today. So last question, because I know we're starting to get questions in the chat. So okay, so we touched a little bit on inventory and how it's tight. So some of the creative ways, like what are you doing to create more inventory for your buyers and sellers? Like what are you doing to create? What are you purposely focused on?
Wow, I wish I knew the answer to that question.
Answered it. You kind of are started with that. You said you're dealing with a lot of builders, right? And you're creating spreadsheets for your clients. So that's one thing you already talked about. But has your language changed now with the conversations you have with your, because you're highly repeat referral, right? I mean, 18 years in the
Huge.
business, huge relational guy. So has your conversation changed about in lead generation? Because you said lead generation, creating spreadsheets and different opportunities for my people, but it has your language around like finding more inventory. Are you reaching out to your database and saying, hey, have you thought about selling and cashing in?
Absolutely. So, and Laurie De Leon, she's always on me, and I love her for this, just about that, and even, we are, had a small branch of property management, which I'm glad we're handing over here. But that was an example right there of reaching out to investor clients of ours, that we've worked with over the years that may not, they don't have somewhere that they need to move to. Okay. So it's a little bit different conversation. They're just about the numbers.
Right.
So what we've done is reached out to those investor clients and given them a short CMA. They don't know. A lot of them they hear the stories, guys. They hear, they're in different country for some of ours or in different states. But when they see these numbers, and like I said, they're numbers people. They want to roll their money over to something else. And I anticipate this year we'll get a couple listings from those conversations.
Right.
Okay. And I think ever more so often and you're right, we're referral based. That's how I've always operated. And 18 years later, it's awesome. There's no better feeling to get referrals coming in. That's when I know I'm winning. Okay. When those referrals are coming in, that's when we know we're winning because we're doing something right. Okay. And that's the big picture of it. But going back to your conversation, I think it's being proactive on taking the initiative to provide this kind of data to your potential sellers, and right now, a lot of people are reaching out with like tax, protesting and stuff like that. I mean, golden opportunity. They don't need to reach out, and maybe you can reach out to them. Okay, that's another touch, and that you can make to them. So a lot of them just don't realize where we are at in the market. And for some of our sellers, that are in a situation of becoming empty nesters, they're moving further out. And so they're okay with, not having to fight, all these offers here, and they're looking to move further out as it is because they are now empty, empty nesters. So I think it's getting creative, it's being proactive, and because man, if you can get listings in this market, you're going to go a very long way.
I love that you said that, and I'm looking for my exact number, but I do know that our listings taken units in March was 200% over last March, and the March before.
Wow.
Well, was last year anomaly because that's kind of when COVID was hitting. So I went 2 back for each, marker to make sure it wasn't just that, right? And it was listings taken, listings sold, listings volume taken, double. And so I was like, oh man, I love that our agents are getting it because they get that it's listings. It's always been listings, but right now, man, you get that listing, you get it priced right, you're going to get your seller's going to be in a good position, and which comes with some other, programming and stuff like that. But a lot of people would like to sell and cash out and maybe pay off their debt that they haven't been able to do or whatever. There's lots of ways you can help people, but you are the professional. Right. And I think there's never been, we had Tony Zargami on our citywide team meeting, and she's a gal that I'd interviewed on K2B Connect back in when COVID first hit about virtual open houses. And she did 75 million, over 200 deals. And she said there's never been a better time to reach out to people about what their home is worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what their options are. Right.
Yeah. And we have all that data, everyone, all realtors have that data. And it's really, worst case scenario, guys, they decide not to sell. You made that contact, you were proactive, and that means something, and go get your unfair share, I think is what I've heard. So
yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's all about delivery. It's always about the delivery, right? It's like, we're just here to serve our people. It's not anything greed driven. It's like, I just want to educate you so you can make the best decision. And I think you do such a great job of that. Mike, I know we're at 10:38, so I want to open it up and see if anybody has any questions for us. Either in the chat on my, it's funny, JC Julio says, everyone smiles at me when they see an offer from me. That's cute. And Memo says, hola, mi amigo. So what you guys got? We have a studio audience here with us on the call too. Any questions from you guys? Counting on you for a question. Somebody ask anything you want, anything you want. There's nothing like when you have when you're on stage and nobody asks you a question. It's like, was I that good that you just learned everything? So, anything you want, anything about the market, anything about his business, whether you're new or have been, we have a real mix of experienced people on this call. So think one thing to ask, otherwise I'll keep asking. I'm looking for
I can ask a question.
Thank you, Elham.
So who do you use for your social marketing, or do you do it on your own?
Yes. So actually, Laurie has taken over that aspect. What we did was we leveraged, and it was a big step for us, but we leveraged our contract to close out to a third party. So that took a lot off of Laurie's plate. Her passion is really on the marketing side. And so as soon as we did that, it opened up, the opportunity for her to focus on that, because that contract to close was just taking up so much time to do. Not saying that we just had a ton of deals, but there's just a lot of paperwork. So your question, it's Laurie, and what is awesome is we are starting to see, we talked about it, I met with her today about, we're starting to see some leads come in through that social marketing effort. So Laurie's the one who does it.
Laurie is his lead admin for his team. She's amazing. She's like his director of ops, and they got the contract to close off of her plate so that she could add things like that back onto it. So she works full time with Mike Takao, and yeah. Thanks for the question, Elham.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? They're just so smart. They're like, oh, I just learned so much from, okay.
I know it all.
Okay, then we'll just keep going. We'll just keep going before I wrap it up here. So one thing I didn't ask you is, we talked about we didn't really talk about what you think you're great at. I talked about what I think you're great at. What do you think you're really good at that is helping you see the results that you're seeing in the market of right now?
So I think that I always had this crutch on my shoulder, I always had this limiting belief that unless you're making cold calls, that you're not going to be successful. I felt like that was a big part of breaking through, and I will say in 18 years, I've never made one. Are we the top team in the city? No, by far no. But are we doing very well? I feel we are. So what I told myself is, as you said, my database is over 18 years. You'd think it'd be more people. I think we're like at 400 people, but it is rock solid 400 people. we filter it out nonstop, and it started off probably at 30 people, but for us, they are our billboard, and we approach it, when we're working with them, that's going to be the case, and just doing what is right, or what would we do? I try to operate always from what would I do in this situation, in an industry that is, we get paid off commission. Sometimes it can be tough, to swallow a pill or to lose a deal, but it may be at that given time, it may be, what's best. So what do I think I do best? I think it's relationships, as we talked about, with people. And I always try to, when I initially meet somebody, they have this wall here of oh, Mr. Realtor, I can't trust him. My goal is always to try to find some commonality with them that, that helps them realize that I'm too, it's just that, I'm going to have some information that can help you. And then it's up for you to make that decision.
It's that whole people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And you come across as very authentic with them, and here's the information, right? And you do just an excellent job of that.
Yeah, it's conversations, I think, and Paul Campanero, would enjoy sitting in on his classes that he would have on conversations, and it's true because no one wants commission breath, and you want one sure way to run off clients. That is certainly it. So, coming from the heart is one thing we focus on, and I mean it's paid off for us, Melanie. I mean our referral business is probably, I would say, between 90 to probably low 90% of the transactions that we that we're closing.
90%. That's amazing. Yeah. That I would guess that though. I do have a question in the live stream.
Sure.
JC Julio asks, how do we keep going after 10 plus offers? Or how would you tell a buyer that they just don't have enough cash? Like if they're just not realistic, right? Because you're losing offer after offer. You don't have enough money, or they don't have enough money in the bank to be able to come to the table right now. What advice could you give somebody that was in that situation?
Yeah, that's a tough conversation, Julio. I mean, and that's one that I recently had to have with a buyer, and it was certainly not an easy conversation. But after 10 offers, I think that they have gotten, they've seen themselves the reality or what they're up against, and I think ourselves as advisors, especially for a particular buyer of us, they don't have 20% to put down. Okay. They're putting down, between 5 to 10%. And through writing 10 offers, and I mean, if you as the advisor feel like it's, an uphill battle, then I think you need to probably have that conversation with them. Ultimately, I tell my buyers, it's the offer price that they want to offer that's up to them. I'm going to give them my advice, and sometimes it's a process. They've got to lose a couple, but these guys have lost 10 that you've said. So I think now it's almost time to have the conversation of, hey, hold on, maybe we should, hold back and reevaluate here, because the reality is they are burnt out probably, and frustrated emotionally. And I tell my buyers, or this one that particularly is going to hold off, they are going to focus on building more savings, over the next 6 months. And they've made it a goal themselves to make themselves a stronger candidate. And had they not gone through what they had to go through, I think we wrote 3, not 10, like your guys, but having gone through, they now know, and they've educated themselves, and they fell forward. Okay, they fell forward. They know what they're up against, and so they're extending leases, and they're going to just put themselves in a better position to hopefully compete, be able to compete next time. So that's what we decided with them. But I think it's at that point where you probably need to have that conversation soon, because it's tough. It's tough out there. That, or unless they're open to expanding their search.
Yeah, if they go further out or something and lower the price point, right? Because but if they don't have the cash means, though, I think you're going to run into that in a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have the reserves, right now.
But there's a program out there, and haven't used it, but we're trying them out right now with Homeward. In this case, it was a seller of mine that, so he had a property to sell. I don't know if your buyers are in that case, but my guys are in a situation where they want to sell. So they're utilizing a program put out by one of our own, I think.
Yeah, Tim Heil started that, and that there's actually Homeward has two programs. They have the one that Homeward becomes the buyer for your next house, and then you can sell for top dollar to kind of like solve that problem. Or they have the cash buyer program, and they work really closely with us at Keller Williams.
Oh, so they do have a program where you don't have to have a property to sell.
That's newer. They just released that just a few
Oh,
months ago.
wow.
Yeah. So they do. So, and they, that's a KW guy that started that. I think that's, solving a problem. And then you think of all the other things that we have, like you think of the Keller mortgage, and we have now this new program Keller offers. I mean, iBuyer, who's doing that? But I saw an open door sign the other day. I'm like, who would list with open door right now?
No.
Right. And all these companies out there, and we have that stuff to help you get in front of the seller, to educate them on how they can make the best decision. And then if you want something like you have a client that wants to redo the kitchen to maximize their equity, because even though there's multiple offer situations out there and we're the market that we're in, you still want the home to look beautiful, right? To get them to maximize that equity. So we have a 0% loan that your client, because they work with you, a Keller Williams agent, can take advantage of. They have 1 year to pay it back. And that's called the Ready to Sell program, right? So there's something for everything, but it comes back to what you started at with is education and knowing, right?
You're right.
So you ask the question, so you know what problem you are the doctor, what you can solve, right?
So this particular buyer of mine, Melanie, was when I gave him that Homeward option, and I had done some due diligence, sat in on some of their classes that they had, but I had never worked with them. Whether he goes with them or not, that's the value. I mean, he was beyond, he said, Mike, I can't thank you for that option. I'm going to fill out an application. And Ellen, I know that you asked for the number. I'm sure we can get that to you, but I will tell you on their website, it said applications may take 1 to 2 weeks to process, but I got a call the very next day. I got a call very next day from them, extending their direct and to call them if I have any questions as the agent. Pretty cool. And I think if for the right buyer, I think it's definitely in there. And of course there's fees incurred with it. But what I will tell you is having a buyer go into a position where, they might have a contingency or something, they're going to lose leverage on negotiating. They're going to have to overpay to get their offer selected. So I think those fees, can kind of get washed away on the right buyer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all comes down to communication, right? Having great relationships. I heard you say failing forward through the years, that all those failing forward moments are serving you well now, because you just brush off and your bruise heals and your scar heals, and then all of a sudden next time that happens, and it'll be a different mistake or failure you make. And that's just part of it, right? But you're not afraid of that. And I love that. And Gary Keller says, no one's failed in life more than him. And so every time I'm feeling really in a failing moment, I remember that. And I said, okay, you're not growing if you're not hitting a wall somewhere or doing something wrong, right? And at least you're making progress and growing. And
you get thick, you'll get thicker skin as real estate goes on too. I think that you've got to try your best to keep the emotional side, out of it. I read some quote the other day about there's 86,000 seconds in the day or something. So, if you had $86,000 and someone took $10 away, sleep over it, probably not. There's 86 some thousand seconds in the day. If someone's going to ruin 10 seconds of it, are you going to throw the rest of it? No. You've got to get up, like you said, brush yourself off and move forward. That's the forward part, falling forward and just keep pushing.
I love that. And I love your energy. And I wanted the world to see a little bit more about Mike Takao today. So thank you so much for being my guest. Actually, I like the live streaming on my page because we get a lot more action on it. There's quite a few people watching and engaging. So we might just keep that format, even with all the technical difficulties at the beginning, because we fell forward and we are not letting the show stop, right?
That's right.
My microphone wasn't working. So I hope you can hear me. I know it's not very loud. Next week, Mike, our guest is Julie Galarraga. And Yeah, so next week I got Julie G on here on Cinco de Mayo. I thought how fun to have this amazing energy with her sprinkle orange, right? She's going to be our
Yeah.
guest next week. The week after I've got Rosie Hare, who's amazing.
Wow,
And then the week after-
powerhouse.
Powerhouse. And then the week after that, I got Smoker Broker lined up, who is the expansion team from Frisco, who brought 150 agents over. They do a ton of business and they have their expansion team with us here. So keep tuning in on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. And Mike, thank you for being such an extraordinary role model for so many of us and for your partnership with Keller Williams and for all you do in the world. You're a great guy.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate it. And we appreciate you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.